What's going on, guys? Dawkbro back again. Hope you're fantastic today and welcome to today's video. The hell was that? What the hell's going on? Final Fantasy? That's right, guys. The Final Fantasy VII Remake is coming to PlayStation 5. It comes with a brand new episode called Intermission, featuring the iconic Yuffie as the main character. Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade includes multiple graphical gameplay and system enhancements, improved textures, lighting and background environments, and a new photo mode to capture and share memorable moments on your Final Fantasy adventure. The new episode Intermission introduces an exhilarating new story arc, new characters, fresh combat mechanics, and numerous gameplay additions. The best thing about it, guys, if you already played Final Fantasy VII Remake on the PlayStation 4, you can re-download it on the PlayStation 5 for absolutely free. And you can purchase the new DLC Intermission separately. The reviews for this game were absolutely fantastic, so if you own a PlayStation 5 and you haven't played Final Fantasy VII Remake yet, now is the best opportunity to play it. So, what are you waiting for? If you want to check it out, there will be a link in the description. Once again, Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade is now out on PlayStation 5. What's going on, guys? Dawkbro back again. Hope you're all fantastic today, and welcome back to another Fazbear Frights summary on Gumdrop Angel. And the last story is What We Found. And this story is pretty crazy, okay? This is my favourite story out of all of the three. I really enjoyed it. Spoilers, it's all about Five Nights at Freddy's 3. It's all about Fazbear Frights. It's all about Springtrap, hallucinations. And I really, really enjoyed it. Now, I know I said it's all about FNAF 3. I don't mean the video game. I just mean the location, okay? So, as we already know, Fazbear Frights is an alternate FNAF universe. It's not with the game lore, but we can still pick up connections, you know, with the Fazbear Frights in this universe and the Fazbear Frights in the game universe and Springtrap, etc. It's really good, and it was really nice to see a story about, you know, something that we already know of, Fazbear Frights. Just like the Room for One More about Sister Location. I really enjoy those stories when they happen. Very rarely they do happen. But yeah, I enjoyed it. All about Fazbear Frights. Best story out of the book. Let's summarise. And of course, we've got the Stitch Wraith part as well, which is also interesting. This story was pretty long, so I've got a lot of notes. So I'm going to try and get through this pretty quickly and talk about the juicy bits. So the main character is Hudson, okay? That's the protagonist of this story. He is 23 years old and he's working at a Fazbear Frights horror attraction. The attraction is only 2 weeks old, okay? So it's brand new. There's a new location, all set around the horrors that happened in the past at Fazbear Entertainment. And they physically make the attraction look rotten, spooky, made it to look 30 years plus, okay? Old and forgotten. So cobwebs and scratched floors and scratched walls, you know, just like how the FNAF 3 game looks. He's got two friends called Barry and Duane. Those are his two best friends, and they're all working at the location. Hudson, though, is the day shift, works for the day shift and the night shift, okay? So he's got long hours, but the pay's really good. He works in the day and he works at night. Barry and Duane only work in the day, okay? And they are the ones who are bringing in all of the old Fazbear memorabilia, okay? So, old animatronic parts, drawings, gift boxes, animatronic heads, costumes, you know, just like what we see in the FNAF 3 location. Hudson hates his job, okay? The pay's good, yes, but he is scared of everything. He's scared of all the vintage items. He feels like something's wrong with the place, which is true, right? It's haunted. The vintage parts are all haunted and everything. We know that. And he knows that something's really wrong with this place, and he's creeped out by everything at this location. But like I said, he has really good pay, so he doesn't want to leave. And he meets up with his friends, Barry and Duane, and they've got a box, and out comes something comes out of the box, a Chica arm and a cupcake. So Chica's arm holding the cupcake comes out of the box, and he's absolutely terrified of it, okay? So it's a clear indicator at the start of the story that Hudson is very scared of this location and doesn't like it. However, something really interesting about this location, guys, is it's a lot bigger than the video game Fazbear Frights, okay? So it makes a clear difference. It's obvious that they're not the same in the same universe. There is a fake office and a real office. So in the location, they have made a fake office, you know, to pretend that it's the FNAF location. But also away from it is a real office, and that's where Hudson works and watches the monitors and everything, okay? So I found it interesting how there's a fake office in the location. And I'm wondering if in the Fazbear Frights office, was that a real office or a fake office? I don't know. Was that just a set that was made for people to go into it, you know? I'm pretty sure in the phone call that is the office where, you know, when people are walking around the location, they will see that office and they'll see somebody sat in there pretending to be the night guard, right? So interesting thought, right? Is that if the FNAF 3 office was like supposed to be the real office? Because in this universe, there's a fake office and a real office. And in the real office, that's where Hudson can go and he can shut the door and lock the door. And that's what he does. He's so scared of the attraction at night that he goes inside the real office with all the monitors and everything and shuts and locks the door. Another interesting detail about the location is that it's spliced together aspects of all of the old locations, okay? So they've copied a hallway from the FNAF 1 location, or they've copied a party room from the FNAF 2 location, or a dining room from Fredbear's Family Diner. So, you know, it's a maze of different locations all into one. There's a little bit of a description about the old office, guys, and it has old monitors and an old fan, just to, you know, keep the authenticity of it, right? And I think even in the FNAF 3 office, there were monitors that didn't work or anything. And this one's even darker, guys. They let rats roam around the attraction to keep it like, you know, it's old and rotten. So they let rats go around the location. Which is pretty creepy. Another really interesting detail of the location that Hudson points out is that there's vents all over the location, okay? But they were massive, enough for humans to go in and walk around and, you know, roam around in. The vents were massive into each room. Really, really big, not like the small ones. So Hudson questions it, and maybe that will play with something later on. But yeah, I just wanted to point that out. Some filler, guys, okay? So Barry and Duane are going into the Navy in a couple of weeks, after working at Fazbear Frights for a little bit. They're going to the Navy. Unfortunately, Hudson did apply to be in the Navy as well, but he got rejected, okay? We get some backstory about his family. Unfortunately, Hudson's dad passed away when he was young, and his mom got with a new partner called Lewis, okay? And Lewis is the stepdad. And unfortunately, for the 10 years of Hudson's life, Lewis beat him up and really, really did harm on him physically and mentally. Hudson's life went down dramatically with his friends. He didn't speak to anybody. He began to fail at school. He had a bad childhood. And then interestingly, Hudson says, until the night of the fire. Until the night of the fire. So I started to think like, oh, what's happened there? Hudson's been in a fire in this past life. So Hudson starts roaming around doing his night shift because he has to leave the office at some point and look at, you know, roam around the location at night just to see if everything's okay. And there's a really good description about the location. And another thing I need to say, guys, is that there was a dining room in this location as well. There's no dining room in the FNAF 3 game. But this place has a big dining room with a stage and tables and everything, which I thought was really cool. The entire interior of Fazbear Frights, although in a brand new building, had been made to look like a long abandoned space. Already dark and gloomy because it was nearly windowless. Only the tiniest of windows were set up on the high of the walls. The rooms and hallways looked ancient, because painters had used all sorts of weird techniques to create walls that looked dirty and cobwebbed covered. As if it wasn't bad enough, the designers had begun covering the mottled walls with decayed, time-ravaged bits of Fazbear characters, hanging in netting or from strings, sometimes nailed to or impaled on the wall by knives. The hallway walls were lined with parts of old Fazbear character suits and animatronic parts like wires and joints. The main attractions were the whole costume heads of the three characters, Freddy, Foxy and Chica. These had positions of prominence in the hallway, but interspersed with them were a cornucopia of character pieces. Bunny ears, bare paws, chick feet, fox snouts, fuzzy purple bellies, matted furry brown legs. These were just a few of the spine-chilling slices of Fazbear lore that waited in the hallway to startle unsuspecting passers-by, or to grab them. Hudson had heard that the designers were working on animating several of the hands. It wasn't functional yet, but once Hudson's arm had brushed a purple bunny hand as he went by, and he had beaten the hand into the ground before he realised he was pummeling an inanimate object. Luckily, he had been able to reattach the hand to the wall, and apparently the designers hadn't remembered the hand wasn't that mangled when they had been put up. Interspersed with the character parts, images of pizzas and children's drawings created a feeling of disorientation. So did the thick, torn electric cables dangling from various parts of the ceiling. They looked like headless black snakes. They weren't live electric cables, of course. At least, Hudson assumed they weren't. He wasn't about to touch one and find out. At the end of the hall, Hudson sighed in relief and then set his shoulders before he stepped into his least favourite room in the building, the dining room. He always checked this room first to get it out of the way. So a little bit of nice description there, guys, about the location. It's basically just like Fazbear Frights, but with more the Fazbear Frights FNAF 3 game, but more props everywhere and stuff like that, all on the walls, like arms and feet and beaks, all attached to the walls. This story, guys, I definitely recommend if you're a big fan of FNAF 3, because there's so many details that I've skipped out on, because, you know, it's a video. Unfortunately, I can't read the whole book to you guys, but there's so much description about this Fazbear Frights. It's really, really good. Now, there's a girl called Faith that Hudson really likes, and she is one of the designers to make Fazbear Frights. So there was a design team, like figuring out what to put on the walls and what to decorate the place with, which I thought was really, really cool. And they go on a date, and unfortunately, Faith says something very interesting to him after the date on a phone call. And she says, "Did you do it? Did you do it?" And then unfortunately, Faith breaks up with him after that. So yeah, did you do it? What is that about? Obviously, I know, but you'll see later on. Did you do it? More description about the location, guys. There was an arcade area with really old, rotting arcade machines from the old locations. Really rotting. Apparently, Hudson even saw a worm coming out of the base of the arcade machine, which is pretty gruesome. Prizes all over the floor, gift boxes all over the floor, toys all over the floor. They even have in this location, guys, they were making a replica pizzeria kitchen, okay? They were making it just like an old Fazbear attraction with a pizzeria kitchen, but they actually made it as a real kitchen because they wanted to give food for people at the attraction if anybody wants to have a venue there. They actually made the kitchen real at the location, which I thought was pretty cool. Storage facilities, wardrobes with old costumes in, closets, men and women's bathroom, set just like the old pizzeria ones. They even have a gift shop as well, a gift shop there too. And Hudson goes into the bathroom and he doesn't like looking in the mirror because he feels like it's facing his past, okay? So again, Hudson has had a really dark past, okay? Especially with his stepdad. And did you do it? What's that about? There's also another worker there called Virgil, and he's an old man, 30-year-old. He drives a Ford sedan, which I thought was interesting. He's called Virgil. I will say now, nothing happens with Virgil. He's not secretly William Afton or anything. He's just an employee there. And he basically swaps the shift over with Hudson from time to time. And Hudson has like a 6-hour break. That's when Virgil comes along and does the shift. Virgil No sign of being scared of the location. He doesn't care. Okay, he's not scared of anything. We then get some more backstory about Hudson, okay? The reason why he couldn't join the Navy, guys, is because his body's so broken because of Lewis. So he's got nerve damage. He's had to have surgery in his back because of Lewis beating him up and stuff. Really, really horrible. And I feel really bad for Hudson at this point. He's not able to go to the Navy because of somebody else, what somebody else has done to him in his past. Really, really bad. Now, we get some more backstory again with his life and his family. Hudson does have a grandma, okay? And she's called Granny Foster, and she's very spiritual, and she predicts the future. She can see what's going to happen, okay? Remember that. Hudson's real dad, unfortunately, had taken his own life, okay? So again, a lot of tragedy, a lot of really, really sadness, a lot of sadness in Hudson's past, a lot of pain, a lot of agony in his past. And Hudson's always had bad luck. He was bullied at school, unfortunately. And then this is the part, guys, which was pretty deep, okay? So 5 years ago, there was a fire at Hudson's house, okay? And Lewis, the stepdad, and his mother both died. And Hudson's mother both died in the fire, okay? And the fire was investigated and it wasn't natural, okay? The fire wasn't natural. So all of this in the past where people have said, did you do it? To Hudson, it's because Hudson has been accused of causing that fire. Back at Fazbear Frights, Hudson goes into the office on his night shift. He locks the door. Silence. So he's been working there now for 3 weeks, okay? He's been working at Fazbear Frights now for 3 weeks, and it hasn't been open to the public yet. So throughout these 3 weeks, guys, nothing bad has happened at the location. Obviously, Hudson's scared of it, but nothing serious has happened, okay? Nothing bad at all. Nice little detail what I saw here, guys, is that the puppet mask was there, okay? The puppet mask was at this Fazbear Frights, just like the FNAF 3 location. And in this universe, the puppet mask is in this location. There's a Pirate's Cove there as well, guys, and what they do with the attraction at this Pirate's Cove, the curtains, is that when people walk past it, Foxy's hook is programmed to go out of the curtain with his hook and start slashing his arm around to scare people, okay? So there's even a Pirate's Cove here, guys, which is pretty crazy. A much better, bigger upgrade than the one in the game universe, I have to be honest. And again, even in the fake office, guys, there's a bin of old character parts, just like the FNAF 3. So in the FNAF 3, there's a box of the toy animatronics, right? And Foxy's arm, an old withered Foxy. The fake office has that box as well, which again makes me think, was the FNAF 3 attraction the fake office? And he's looking around in the main office, guys, and there's a big vent above him, massive vent. And again, foreshadowing, he wonders if something could ever watch him in that vent. Okay, these vents are massive, easily for people to go through. But again, nothing happens that night. Nothing bad happens. Just a normal night shift with Hudson being a bit anxious. Some more filler, guys, when 6 a.m. happens. Because when 6 a.m. happens, his two best friends come in because that's the start of their work shift. And they bring more vintage boxes in and start decorating and giving it to the decorators, etc. Barry starts dating Faith, which is really awkward. Very, very awkward. Hudson's behind everybody again. You know, he didn't get the girl. His best friend did. They're going to the Navy. So, you know, this is all taking a toll on him. Now, this is what's interesting, guys, is that they say, the two friends say, some big find is arriving tomorrow. They found a big find in one of the hidden rooms at an old location. Just like the FNAF 3 story, okay? Who do you think is going to show up tomorrow? Another interesting detail that I noticed as well is that a phone system is being put in the day after Springtrap's going to arrive, okay? So again, thinking about the timeline, FNAF 3, the game story, did have a phone system. Okay, so this could maybe fit in with the FNAF 3 game lore. Like, this could have happened before the phone system came in, because the FNAF 3 FNAF 3 game does have a phone system. You know, the night guard, the phone dude calls him every night, so there is a phone system at that point. I just thought it was a weird detail to add in this story, that the phone system isn't being placed in yet. It's going to be the day after Springtrap comes in that they're going to set everything up. So Hudson's shift is finished. Hudson's shift, guys, is basically, I'm pretty sure it's from 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. And then he gets like 6 hours break. And then he works at 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. or something, has another break, and then he starts his night shift again. So as you can see, he's very busy. You know, he's basically working all the time. Hudson's morning, guys, he goes to visit his granny, okay? The spiritual Granny Foster. And Granny knows straight away and says to Hudson, you need to quit your job. She feels something, and she says to Hudson, you need to quit your job. Unfortunately, Hudson declines and says, no, it's got good pay. I'll be okay. You know, I'm just scared of the place. It's fine. Nothing bad's going to happen. But the granny can kind of see something's going to happen. Like, she stares at Hudson for ages and she sighs and she says something that might play later on. Your path is your own. Your path is your own. So she's saying, okay, I can't stop you. It's your choice. Your path is your own. Don't quit then. I've warned you, but whatever. He then goes back later on, back to Fazbear Frights for his night shift. The shift passes with no incidents at all. So again, nothing bad happens during his night shift. Just like FNAF 3 Night 1. Okay? I wonder if anything's going to go wrong when Springtrap arrives. And the next day arrives. And Springtrap is here, okay? And like I said, Springtrap was found in a hidden room. And what they were going to do at Fazbear Frights is make their own hidden room. Just like a hidden room, and put Springtrap in there. And that was going to be the best feature of the whole attraction. So again, this Fazbear Frights is a lot bigger than the one in the FNAF 3 game. They're going to be making a hidden room to replicate where Springtrap was found, which I thought was really cool. What they do pretty cruelly, guys, is they attach Springtrap to the wall with hooks, okay? They get some hooks and they attach Springtrap on the wall like that, lifeless. Just for now, temporarily. Just attach him to the walls. So Springtrap is stuck there, and he's really, really heavy as well. It takes two men, Barry and Duane, to pick up Springtrap to get him attached to the wall like that. So Springtrap is basically double trapped. He's now hooked onto a wall, and, you know, he's not going to be able to get out of that. Night shift time begins. Hudson is actually starting to get a bit of courage now. He starts like, you know what? I need to grow up. I need to stop being scared of this location. I'm going to start facing my fears and go around this location and just try not to be scared. I'm going to read something to you now, folks, and it's a little bit of detail about Springtrap. Normally, Hudson did his rounds in the same direction and the same order, but tonight he was eager. So he started at the end, intending to reverse his usual direction. This brought him to the new animatronic near the beginning of his circuit, instead of the end. As he approached the scruffy thing, he planned to face it right off and get it out of the way. He was going to rob it of its power to upset him. Hudson strode down the inner hall, and he found the new animatronic hooked to the wall, just where Duane and Barry left it. Posed in a friendly hand-up-to-wave position, the animatronic's posture wasn't threatening. But really, anything that looked like this was threatening, no matter what it was doing. Hudson faced the animatronic, then stumbled back and sucked in his breath. What in the world was this thing supposed to be? At first glance, the robotic character attached to the wall appeared to be a rabbit. Sort of. With fur of greenish yellow, this was no ordinary rabbit. though not even a cartoon rabbit. It was the kind of rabbit Dr. Frankenstein might have created if he wanted to build a rabbit instead of a man. Ears torn, dozen of pieces of the bodies and limbs' yellow-green fur ripped away or chewed away. It was hard to tell. This was a rabbit that would never be cuddled by any child. It shouldn't have been seen by any child either. Where the fur was torn, you could see metal pieces of the animatronic structure, exposed wires linked to an oxidized metal frame, and something else. What was that? Hudson couldn't help himself. He leaned in to get a better look. Was that? No, it couldn't be. He studied the reddish and greyish areas that could be seen through gaps in the fur and metal. It looked like... Hudson took a step back and clutched at his nightstick. He realised he was breathing too fast, and he bent over to get a grip of himself. He needed to go back to squinting, but he couldn't. He had to know. Stepping closer again, Hudson tilted his head to get a better look at what was hiding under the fur and metal. He was going to show himself that his crazy flight of gruesome fancy was just that. Fancy. Basically saying, you know, he's just making it up. But it wasn't. Hudson lifted a finger and carefully extended his hand far enough to touch what was inside the ravaged fur and the exposed metal. He put the tip of his finger against the reddish material, and he jumped back so fast he lost balance and fell against the opposite wall. It was tissue. Maybe not, no. Probably not human tissue, but it was some kind of bodily tissue. Who would want to terrify someone with gore like this? It couldn't be real. It's real, a scratchy voice said. Hudson scrambled back. It spoke! The animatronic spoke! No, that wasn't possible. Duane and Barry told him the thing was completely non-functional. Experts were going to be brought in to work on it, and even then, they figured it was beyond repair. If you weren't so stupid, I'll tell you more about it, the voice said. The voice was distinctive, way too distinctive. A bass voice with a burr-like raps. A voice had a hint of a southern accent. Hudson knew that voice. It was Mr. Atkins' voice. Hudson drew his stick. How could Mr. Atkins' voice be coming out of this thing? Or did the voice come from the animatronic? No, Hudson didn't think so. The voice seemed to fill his head, coming more from inside of his ears than outside of them. He couldn't pin down a direction. So basically, guys, Mr. Atkin was an old teacher of his, and he bullied Hudson at school. He used to call him stupid all the time, which is why Springtrap says, if you weren't so stupid, I'd tell you more about it. But that's not Springtrap's voice, okay? It's Mr. Atkins inside of Hudson's head. It's basically Springtrap messing with Hudson's mind, okay? So Springtrap is technically talking, or is he? You never know. But the voice is coming from inside of Hudson's head, okay? It's not coming out of Springtrap's mouth, okay? I hope that makes sense. And this plays along a lot in this story starting from now. Hudson has a lot of hallucinations at this point, just like Five Nights at Freddy's 3. The bad things only start to happen when Springtrap arrives. Hudson looks at Springtrap, and Springtrap was silent. No movement. Springtrap has not moved at all, okay? Not a single hint that Springtrap has, even lifted a finger. And suddenly, Hudson is filled with past memories, smells, feelings, okay, of being back at school and being bullied by his teacher. Now, again, this is definitely a story I recommend you guys read, okay, because it's one of the better stories out of the whole Fazbear Frights books, in my opinion. There's a lot of really nice details about Springtrap and everything, which I can't go too much into because I'd be here forever. Honestly, every page just has so much detail to talk about. Hudson then because he's getting so overwhelmed with these memories, actually whacks Springtrap with his nightstick, okay? And knocks out a tooth, which falls on the floor, okay? Remember that, okay? Because that's important later on. Hudson hits Springtrap with the nightstick and a tooth falls on the floor. Hudson's so terrified of this happening that he tries to move Springtrap. He wants to throw Springtrap in like a storage room or something to keep him away, to keep him locked away, because he doesn't want to look at him anymore. Unfortunately, Springtrap's too heavy for him, okay? So Hudson can't do anything. But Springtrap is completely hooked. There's no way Springtrap could get out of these. He's been hooked on the wall. He cannot move. So Hudson goes along and he goes to the dining room. The animatronic statues, guys, they're not even animatronics. They're just like statues of Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica on the stage, just as a show. They start to move and they start to sing. And again, Hudson cannot believe his eyes that the animatronics are starting to... Statues that don't have any joints are starting to move and sing. Their lips are moving and singing old animatronic songs. So Hudson's now like, what the hell is going on? He's hallucinating a lot of things now. And then things get even worse. Lewis appears. His stepdad appears as an hallucination and grabs Hudson's head and slams it onto an arcade machine and throws the nightstick away from him. So again, this is where things get really crazy, because now it's not just like Hudson seeing things sing and move or whatever. That's fine, I guess. That's obviously it will make somebody insane and scared, but now he's having like somebody grab his head, his stepdad grab his head and whack him onto the arcade machine. And it did happen because he starts bleeding from his head. So whether that was a hallucination or not, Hudson's head did hit that arcade machine, okay? So now, obviously, Hudson's like, what the hell is going on? He runs to the office to treat his injury, but he doesn't have his nightstick anymore. He doesn't have his nightstick. It's been thrown away from him. And he feels really exposed at this point because he feels really unsafe. So he grabs a hammer. He goes and gets a hammer. He decides to check the monitors, guys. And there's a monitor just in that hallway where Springtrap is hooked on the wall. And Springtrap's gone. Okay? Springtrap is gone from being hooked on the wall. He has vanished from the monitor screen. So Hudson panics, gets out of the office and checks the hallway. And Springtrap is really gone. He's gone from that wall. He's disappeared. So obviously now Hudson's really panicking because the animatronic that was speaking inside of his head is now gone from the wall, roaming around the location. And he's the only one there with no phone line or anything. He goes to the men's bathroom to clean himself up and to treat his wound. And he just feels like there's a presence inside there. Something's inside that bathroom. And now, guys, he gets another past event hallucination. Bullies from his school come raging into the bathroom, grab Hudson and give him a swirly. They get his head, they shove it down to the toilet, they flush the toilet, which is what is it a swirly or a whirly? I don't know. So basically the bullies give him drown him in the toilet, okay? He gets out of the toilet, he backs up, looks around, and the bullies are gone. And the toilet stall is completely dry. So that swirly didn't even happen. But in Hudson's mind, it all happened, okay? He's hallucinating and he feels everything. He feels the water from being dunked into the toilet. He feels the people grabbing him and everything. All of these hallucinations are stemming from past events, okay? Remember that. It's all coming from past events. He looks up, guys, at the vent in the bathroom. And who do you think he sees looking at him in the vent? It's Springtrap, guys. Springtrap has lifted the vent over and staring down at Hudson, laughing at him, okay? You can see Springtrap, like, moving his jaw up and down, laughing. So creepy. And then Springtrap lurks back into the ventilation system. At this point, guys, Hudson is really angry. I would be terrified if that happened, but Hudson is really annoyed. He's angry. So he tries to pursue Springtrap. He climbs into the vent and goes after Springtrap, but nobody's there. These hallucinations are so vivid, guys, that Hudson says it's like stepping into the past and then the present straight away. He literally, the room changes to different visions that he has. So in the bathroom, it changed into like the school bathroom. So his past memories feel really, really real, okay? These hallucinations seem so real. And Hudson wants to take on Springtrap. He's had enough. So fair play to Hudson, right? He's going after Springtrap and he's had enough. I would have chickened out by now and tried to escape. But Hudson goes through the ventilation system, guys, to try and take on Springtrap. So he climbs through the vents, because it's big enough to fit a human inside, even Springtrap, obviously. So Hudson decides to go into the ventilation system in the Fazbear Frights to try and find Springtrap. And on his journey through the vent, guys, which I thought was really weird, there's props in there. There's props. There's an old Freddy Fazbear mask in the vent. And there's also like a Chica head and old props. Now at this point, guys, I thought this is intentional. They've put props in the ventilation system purposely. And I think it's because they made the ventilation that big because they wanted people at the attraction to go inside the vents and it be like a ventilation maze. Does that make sense? And I think that's why the ventilation system is there in FNAF 3. There's cameras in the ventilation system, right? Why would they be there? Right? Does that make sense? So it clicked to me at this point, guys, that in FNAF 3, there's cameras in the ventilation system all over the place, and they're big, they're huge, right? It's because they wanted people at the attraction when it opened to go through these ventilation systems. That's a valid reason. And they're even bigger in this location in the book universe. But they've even added props in there. And they've added props in there because people are going to crawl through them and see props and it be like a really spooky maze, like a crawl space maze. So, yeah, that's why I think there was cameras in FNAF 3 for the ventilation system. I went a little bit off tangent there, guys, but I just thought it was a really cool detail. And I think the book confirms that the vents are that big. Why else would they be big? It's to get people to go around the attraction in the vents like a maze. I thought that was a really cool detail. And Hudson has been looking for Springtrap in this ventilation system. He doesn't even know how long for. Trying to find Springtrap and hunt him down. It's just a lost cause, really. I don't think he's ever going to find him. And there's a Chica head in a vent, right? There's a Chica head in the vent, guys, with its torso still and its hand and its arm. And Hudson goes past it. You know, it's just an animatronic part. It doesn't really matter. And he's going through the vents, guys. And suddenly, something grabs Hudson's foot. Can you imagine how tight these vents are? And he's moving forward. He can't really look back, can he? Because he's going forward. Chica grabs his foot, okay? And says, "I like you." In Faith's voice. Not Chica's voice, Faith's. You remember, Hudson's past with Faith, his ex-girlfriend who broke up with him. There you go. And again, Hudson repeats himself that the voice feels like it's inside of his head, not coming from Chica, okay? And then Chica grabs Hudson's hand now. And then he gets flashbacks of Faith grabbing his hand and goes through his past trauma with what happened with her. So again, you can see that all this is happening and his brain is just thinking about all of this past stuff, these past events. And it's crazy how the animatronics are even trying to replicate that as well. Well, it's hallucinations. So Hudson tries to get Chica off him and he tries to hit down a ventilation hatch and he falls into the backstage area of Fazbear Frights. And this is another really cool scene with what happens because obviously Chica's still on him. He falls into the backstage with Chica still attached to him. and then she collapses and gets off Hudson. When this happens, a big roar echoes in the location, like a big roar, like deep roar. The costume parts in the backstage area all come to life and hound onto Chica and start ripping Chica apart. Not even kidding. Ripping Chica apart like little piranhas. And then Chica just turns to dust. Okay? Just turns into little pieces of yellow fabric. Which I thought was a really cool scene to see in a movie or something. All these old costume parts coming to life and jumping onto Chica and ripping her apart. Really, really creepy. Unfortunately, Hudson loses his hammer now, so he tries to get a new weapon for protection. So he decides to go to the kitchen. So he goes into the kitchen, grabs a massive butcher knife and a rolling pin. So now he's got 2 weapons now. And he goes back into the office. Nothing happens at this point. There's nothing eventful happens. He literally goes to the kitchen, gets his weapons, and goes back to the office. He's lost his keys now. Okay? He's lost his keys. So he can't lock the door or anything, unfortunately. He then hears an echo, stupid, again, from his teacher. His teacher's voice, he hears stupid. And he does mention the phone system. He can't call for help because there's no phones. So he's a bit screwed here. And suddenly, in the office, guys, above him, the vent hatch opens, okay? And animatronic mouths start falling into the office next to Hudson. And they're all mimicking stupid, 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 calling Hudson stupid, mimicking his old teacher. And the mouths start becoming so overwhelming that Hudson falls onto the floor and the mouths start climbing onto Hudson, mimicking stupid, 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 a bunch of animatronic mouths all on top of Hudson, even trying to get inside of his mouth and trying to get inside of his body and his ears and everything. Really, really cool scene again, and really creepy. And unfortunately, Hudson is so upset and startled by this that he wets himself and starts to cry and curls up. He's so traumatized by this happening. And then he looks up again. And what do you think's happened? The mouths are gone. All of the animatronic mouths have vanished. Okay, so again, he's getting all of these creepy hallucinations happen to him that feel so real. But the mouths are gone. Completely gone. So Hudson decides he needs to clean himself up and go to the bathroom again because he's wet himself. And Lewis grabs him when he's about to leave. Hallucination again. Grabs Hudson and throws him across the wall, and he whacks his back onto the wall. And then he looks up, and what do you think? Lewis is gone. Okay? So these hallucinations are really tormenting with Hudson's mind. And now he's in the hallway, guys, after being thrown. And all of the animatronic parts on the walls and stuff are muttering. And even the animatronic arms are holding his nightstick and hammer, his past 2 weapons. It's crazy. The animatronic parts are holding his weapons, tormenting him. Unfortunately as well, guys, from that being thrown onto the wall and Lewis being there, he breaks his wrist. He breaks his wrist. Whether that's in Hudson's mind that he's really broke his wrist or not, we don't know. But there's detail that he has definitely broke his wrist. He sees bones sticking out of his wrist, okay? So in Hudson's mind, or whether it's real or not, Hudson has broke his wrist now. And this is when it gets pretty insane, okay? So he's leaning on the wall, like with his broken wrist and his hurt back. And Foxy scrapes the back of his back through the wall, scrapes his back. He looks at the time, guys, with his broken wrist, and it's only 2 a.m. He's only 2 hours into his shift. And all of this has happened already. So this is really bad. He hears voices in his head again. You're nothing, Lewis says. You're nothing. You don't mean anything to me. And he turns to where the sound is coming from, and he sees Springtrap down the hallway. Springtrap starts coming after Hudson, walking down the hallway, and the Lewis voice is actually now coming from Springtrap's mouth. So when Lewis is saying, "You're nothing," Springtrap's mouth is mimicking it, okay? You can imagine that scene, right? Broken wrist, broken back, looking down the hall. see Springtrap slowly limping, moving down the hallway, mimicking Hudson's stepdad. You're nothing. Hudson manages to get the butcher knife just before Springtrap gets to him. And Hudson starts swinging the knife towards Springtrap, going absolutely crazy with the knife, trying to defend himself. The knife blade swings on to Hudson's bicep, okay? When he's swinging around, he cuts his arm. And again, another suppressed memory from Hudson. He says specifically something happened when Lewis slashed a knife at Hudson before the fire. So again, is this really happening? Did Lewis in the past cut Hudson's arm as well? So is this really happening? Again, just repressed memories that Hudson's starting to remember of Lewis. So Hudson runs away through the hallway, away from Springtrap, and when he's running down the hallway, the animatronic arms are trying to grab him and mouths bite him when he's running down the hallway. It's really cool scene if you picture it in your head. And he gets to the end of the hallway and he looks around. Springtrap's not there. The animatronics are not moving. Complete silence. The bloody knife was there, so that did happen, and his arm had been slashed, okay? So all of that did happen, and Hudson realizes that he did that to himself, okay? So when he was going crazy with the knife, he cut his arm accidentally. He has to stop the bleeding, guys, because he's bleeding pretty bad now. So he decides to make his way to the gift shop, because the gift shop's got a bunch of towels and stuff that he can use to wrap around the injury. Another really, really cool scene, guys. On his way to the gift shop, he walks past Pirate's Cove. You can't really tell what I'm going to say. If you remember, the attraction was for Foxy's hook to come out and start slashing. That's what happens, okay? So Hudson walks past Pirate Cove. He gets startled by Foxy's hook slashing around the curtain, going crazy. But the twist is, guys, is that Springtrap comes out of Pirate's Cove holding Foxy's arm. Another great scene, right? You can just imagine, like, the curtains are shut. You see Foxy's hook going crazy. And then Springtrap comes out holding Foxy's arm, tormenting Hudson and laughing about it. So Hudson, terrified, runs away and then makes his way back to the Springtrap hallway where Springtrap should be. And what do you think's there? Pinned to the wall. Springtrap. Springtrap was there in the same position as always. No movements, no differences. Springtrap was there, still hooked onto the wall. So again, you can really see how this is connected with FNAF 3, right? How the night guard in FNAF 3 hallucinates Springtrap being in different places, right? Did Springtrap really come at him and jump scare him? Was it a hallucination? We don't know. Unfortunately now, guys, his vision's starting to get blurry. He's going to pass out soon if he doesn't do anything. He's losing a lot of blood, but he manages to get to the gift shop and he finds the towels and wraps his injury up. And then suddenly, guys, he smells cherry smoke tobacco. And that's the same smell as Lewis's. Okay? Lewis smelled like cherry smoke tobacco. He used to smoke all the time. Lewis throws Hudson across the room and whacks his back onto the wall. And his back is now radiating with pain. The thing is now, guys, is that the gift shop room turns into his old bedroom, okay? So now Hudson, it's not just hallucinating Lewis being in the Fazbear Fright location. The room has now turned into his old bedroom where Lewis used to be, you know, abuse and beat up Hudson. And one of his past memories, guys, is if Hudson wanted to get out of the room, but Lewis, the stepdad, gets all of Hudson's toys and lines them up against the door to block Hudson to get away, really tormenting Hudson, saying like, oh, I'm going to use all your toys and I'm going to block the door. There's no escape. You're not getting out of here. And again, this is where Hudson keeps going back from the past to present, but much, much more deeper, where he's now seeing the room change into his old, you know, his old bedroom. Lewis is gone again, but the pain in his back is still there, just like how it was when Lewis threw him on the wall in his past, like when he was younger. Now, what I saw was a nice detail, which you guys can speculate about, whether this is Hudson hallucinating it again, or if it's real. He looks up, guys, and the vent cover is swung open. Okay, so the vent is open when he goes back to the present. He looks up and the vent is dangling like that open. So I wrote down, was that Springtrap? Did Springtrap throw Hudson across the room? But Hudson was hallucinating it being Lewis. Because the vent shaft is open. So did that really happen? Did Springtrap come down and throw him across the room? We don't know. Because Hudson is now hallucinating literally everything. So we can't confirm if that was Springtrap or not. Hudson's had enough. He needs to get out. He needs to find the exit and he needs to get out. But ironically, guys, when he goes to the Fazbear Frights exit, like I said, remember what I said, where Lewis puts the toys to guard the door, it happens there too. So all of the gift shop plushes and figurines are piled up, blocking the exit, so Hudson can't escape. He remembers something that Granny Foster used to say to him. Heat purges, fire heals. And he remembers his past memory of what happened with the fire at his house 5 years ago. The fireplace. Lewis couldn't reach him there into the fireplace, so he's going to be safe. So he runs into the kitchen, guys, at Fazbear Frights, and climbs into the oven in the kitchen. So now Hudson, guys, is now hiding inside the oven at the Fazbear Frights kitchen. And his hallucinations are starting to go wild again, back into the past. Remember where I said where the gift shop turned into his bedroom? The oven now turns into his old fireplace. And he's back into the past again. It's now confirmed, guys, that Hudson starts the fire at the house, killing Lewis, his stepdad, and his mother. Okay? So what Hudson does, guys, he hides in the fireplace and he gets Lewis's lighter and he makes the fire and he hides in the fireplace for protection. He does get damage from the fire. He does get nerve damage on his legs from the heat, but he does survive, obviously. But yeah, Hudson caused the fire at his old house, okay? And just remember everything that Hudson's gone through, okay? These hallucinations have happened and built up loads of times, like, so Hudson's stepdad whacks him on the arcade machine. He then gets swirled by bullies in the bathroom. He then gets grabbed by Chica and witnesses Chica getting ripped apart. He then gets more abuse from his stepdad, throwing him across the wall. He breaks his wrist. He gets attacked by Foxy's hook. He gets bit by animatronic mouths. He gets freaking piled by animatronic mouths. He sees Springtrap roaming around the hallway. He sees Springtrap laughing at him. In one night, in a couple of hours, you can imagine what's going through Hudson's mind. And he thinks, oh, I've had enough. I can't get out of here. I'm going to hide in the kitchen oven. I'm going to be fine there. That's what saved me before. You know, I hid in the fireplace before from Lewis, and that saved me. I'm going to go and hide in the oven. When he reached the oven, he stood in front of it and smiled. He wondered why he hadn't thought of this before. Hudson reached out with his right hand and tugged on one of the industrial oven doors. As soon as it opened, he gingerly climbed inside the oven. There he sat, stretched out his legs and grabbed the door. He pulled it closed with a satisfying whomp. Finally, he was safe. Or was he? As he huddled against the hard, cool walls of the oven, Hudson's mind went back once again to the past. Safe was what he thought he was the night he wrestled the knife from Lewis and threatened the man with it. "Leave me alone!" he screamed. "Never touch me again, or I'll tell everyone everything." Lewis had laughed at him. "Kid, you're not going to tell anyone anything. They'll think they know what they need to know." And with that strange statement, Lewis had disappeared into the kitchen and Hudson had crawled into the fireplace to hide. The next thing Hudson knew, there was a fire in the fireplace. And then the house was on fire. Hudson barely got out alive. The burns on his legs left him with nerve damage that had barred him from the Navy. He didn't set the fire, did he? He told everyone he didn't set it because he believed he didn't. A popping sound yanked Hudson from his reverie. What was that? He listened, and he heard a rustling sound and a snap. Hudson hunched over in the fireplace and he listened for Lewis as he looked at Lewis's lighter. When had Hudson taken it? He didn't remember, but it was his now. Hudson could feel Lewis's lighter in his hand. He could feel his thumb on the little starter wheel. Flames started crawling up the curtains next to the fireplace. In the oven, something whirred, then made a little spitting sound. Hudson heard a concussive burst like a backdraft blowing open a door. He looked down at his empty hands. The cool walls of the oven started warming up. Hudson shot away from the oven walls. No! Panicked, Hudson kicked at the oven door. It didn't budge. Open the door! He shouted. He kicked again. The door remained closed. Oh, Hudson, a voice said. It was Granny Foster. Hudson looked around the oven and tried to see out through the thick glass opening in the door. He couldn't see anyone. Granny, get me out of here! Hudson yelled. Oh, Hudson, Granny's voice repeated. Her voice wasn't coming from the outside of the oven. It was inside with Hudson. The oven got hotter. Hudson started to sweat. Help me! Hudson heard what sounded like a sigh rushing through the oven. Your path is your path, Granny's voice said, and the oven got hotter and hotter. So there you go, guys. While Hudson's inside of the oven, he's getting memories of when he started the fire with Lewis's lighter, okay? And strangely, the oven turns on. And he thinks of Granny Foster being outside saying, oh, your path is your path. Oh, Hudson, all in his mind. And unfortunately, the oven gets hotter and hotter. You know what's going to happen. So, have a think, guys. Did Hudson turn on the oven? Or did Springtrap? Okay? I do think it was Springtrap. I do think Springtrap is playing with Hudson's mind. I think Springtrap was the cause of all the hallucinations. Or another suggestion, guys, is that Hudson started the oven himself when he was imagining turning on the lighter and causing the fire at the house. His mind and hallucinations could have made him turn on the oven to depict him starting the fire, okay? Whether this is an hallucination or not, Springtrap causes these hallucinations no matter what, okay? It's not just Hudson imagining these happening. Springtrap is causing these hallucinations, okay? You know what I'm going to miss most when we start training? Duane asked Barry as the two men climbed the steps to the front of Fazbear Frights. What? Barry pulled out his keys and unlocked the front doors. He was a little surprised he had to do that. Usually, Hudson was down here already unlocking the doors. Your grandma's cooking, Duane said. Barry laughed, then sobered. I would have said that too, until I met Faith. That'll work out, Duane said as they stepped into the building. Where's Hudson? Barry asked. Hudson! Duane called. What's that smell? Barry wrinkled up his face. Duane covered his nose. Smells like something burning. Hey, did you hear about the fire at the circus? What? It was intense. Duane laughed loudly. Get it? Intense? Barry shook his head. Hudson! He called. They waited, breathing shallowly. No one answered. Let's go check the office, Barry said. The men headed down the main hall. They looked around as they went. Everything was the same as it had been when they'd left the night before. Same stacks of boxes, same animatronic they hooked up to the wall. Duane bent over. I forgot to pick up this tooth last night. We can glue it back in. They went down the hall and leaned into the open door of the office. it looked normal too, but Hudson wasn't in it. Where the heck is he? Duane asked. Barry shook his head. Duane laughed. Maybe he finally got smart and left this crummy town. That wouldn't be a bad thing, Barry said. I'd miss him, but he could use a fresh start. Duane made a face. The smell is stronger down here. It's coming from the kitchen, I think, Barry said. Let's go check it out. As the two headed down the kitchen, Barry said, I feel for Hudson. Poor guy deserves to have something go right. The end. So when Barry and Duane go into the location, everything is as normal as it would have been, okay? Normal animatronics. Boxes on the floor. Everything is normal. And ironically, Springtrap's tooth is still on the floor. Right on the floor is where it was. And Barry says, oh, I forgot to pick this up last night. Did Hudson even hallucinate hitting Springtrap and knocking a tooth on the floor? Because the tooth's still there, and Barry said, oh, that was me. I forgot to pick it up. And Springtrap is still hooked on the wall. Same pose and everything. The only thing you can think of, guys, and it's pretty obvious, is that Hudson hallucinated everything. Okay? By the looks of things, he might even have hallucinated Springtrap moving around. Okay? That seems very, very likely. The only thing I can think of, which would be really funny, is if Springtrap cleaned the whole location up, cleaned the blood everywhere, and put the toys back on the shelves and put the towels back normally, closed all the vents, and, you know, was like, oh, that was fun, and hooked himself back on the wall as the same pose as before. Like, that would be incredibly impossible to do, right? Like, I can't imagine Springtrap doing that and hooking himself back on the wall. To me, it was all hallucinations, okay? Hudson hallucinated everything what happened that night. We know William Afton has powers, okay? He is a powerful with agony. He can do some crazy stuff. So I do think it was a mix of hallucinations with being haunted, okay? I think Afton's spirit and power was causing these hallucinations to happen, no doubt about that. But they were so powerful that they felt real. So when somebody grabbed Hudson and slammed him onto the arcade cabinet, that was all Springtrap's powers, okay? That was all William Afton. They weren't just hallucinations, like little hallucinations where you've seen animatronics singing or something. They were real enough and powerful enough for them to actually harm Hudson, for something to grab his head and throw him across the wall and break his wrists. All of these hallucinations became more powerful because of Hudson's past, okay? We all know about the power of agony, and we all know about the past trauma of all the Fazbear Frights books, okay? All of these past events made these hallucinations more powerful. It was feeding William Afton. It was feeding Springtrap. And again, these hallucinations only happened when Springtrap was in the building. So I know it's obvious, but I want to implant it into your heads. Springtrap caused these hallucinations, just like the FNAF 3 game as well. Weirdly, all of these hallucinations were all connected to past events. Hudson's past. Now, I tried to think of FNAF 3 in that stance as well. And FNAF 3, the hallucinations were old animatronics of the past, the phantom animatronics. To me, they were all definitely hallucinations, okay? And if they were put from past events, it would have had to be a night guard working who knows the past events of Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria, okay? So I still think that the FNAF 3 worker that caused the fire was a past employee. Michael Afton was my guess. Michael Afton or Henry. One of those two that caused the fire would have had hallucinations of past events, and for the animatronics attacking them, would have been an old employee. So Michael Afton or Henry caused the fire of FNAF 3 in my opinion. And again, it makes you theorise about FNAF 3 again. Did Springtrap really roam around the hallways in the FNAF 3 game? Or was it literally all an hallucination, all of it? Did Springtrap really move or not? Now, I think he did. In the FNAF, I think it was a mix of hallucinations and Springtrap being real, okay? Because at the ending of Fazbear Frights being burned down, you see Springtrap escape, okay? So I definitely think Springtrap is real. You know, Springtrap can move around on his own, definitely, 100%. But in the Fazbear Fright universe, would he have managed to escape from being hooked onto the walls? I don't know. I think, guys, that this was all hallucinations, okay? All of it. I don't think Springtrap moved from that wall. I think he was stuck. However, if he was unhooked from the wall and he was put into a hidden room or something, I think Springtrap could have got up and walked around. I think that 100%. But in this story, Springtrap was hooked on a wall and there was no way he could have got out. So what Springtrap did was he literally just used his hallucinations and his power to make this happen to Hudson. I don't think he moved from there at all, but I still think he knew what was going on and he caused that to happen to Hudson. In the FNAF 3 game, guys, Springtrap isn't hooked to a wall. He's placed in that location. He can move around if he wants to. So yeah, really, really interesting story, right? And let me know your thoughts. That's just my theory, guys, is that Springtrap William Afton just used his hallucination powers to screw over Hudson. And because Hudson had such a hard past life, it was very easy to traumatize Hudson, okay? And Springtrap used that as an advantage. And I want you guys to theorize as well, did Springtrap turn on the oven or was it Hudson himself? I'm starting to think now it was Hudson because he was getting the past visions of him started the fire. I think Hudson started the oven as well. I think Springtrap got into his mind and started to twist his mind into thinking that the oven was a safe haven. Go inside the oven, turn on the oven because he's going to be safe. And Hudson does that and gets burned alive. Okay, Hudson gets burned inside the oven, unfortunately. So yeah, some really interesting connections with FNAF 3. And again, the phone lines weren't there either, so you never know. It's just a nice little connection with FNAF 3 there, I think, in my opinion. Completely proves that Springtrap can cause hallucinations to happen, just like FNAF 3. Remember, the first night of FNAF 3, absolutely nothing happens on the first night. But as soon as Springtrap comes in, hallucinations start to happen, okay? I definitely recommend that story, what we found. Great story. Really cool references of FNAF 3 and Springtrap and hallucinations. One of my favourite stories out of the whole book set, guys. One of my favourites. Now, I did say I wasn't going to talk for long, but I've been recording for an hour and a half, so I'm so drained. I think this is the longest summary I've done. I'm really sorry. It was a long one, and it's like freaking really hot in my office, and I'm dying now. But I'm going to get this done. It's time to talk about the epilogue of this story of Gumdrop Angel. Okay, the epilogue with Detective Larson and Jake. If you remember last episode, guys, on the epilogue, big Afton amalgamation comes in, a big robotic of all of the remnants and everything, all the agony, create this massive rabbit of Afton. And unfortunately, Afton gets killed because of the puppet mask from the evidence of the fire, which I wanted to talk about as well. Fazbear Frights definitely burned down at one point, okay? The puppet mask is there. Larson gets the evidence bag from the fire and the puppet mask is in the bag. So a fire 100% happened at Fazbear Frights. This fire is not Hudson, okay? Hudson did not cause the fire at Fazbear Frights. He just dies in the oven, okay? It doesn't cause a fire. Hudson just dies in the oven. When I was reading through it, guys, I thought, yo, my God, this is the fire. This is the Fazbear Frights fire in the book of the Fazbear Frights universe. But Hudson does not cause the fire. So maybe we'll get a story later on of who actually causes the fire at Fazbear Frights, because the fire definitely happens in this book story, okay, guys? I'm going to go off tangent here because I forgot to talk about it. The puppet mask is in the evidence bag of the fire, okay? the puppet mask you spoke about by Hudson being at the location. So the Fazbear Fright fire happens after Hudson. Somebody else causes the fire after Hudson, okay? Springtrap gets burned as well in this story, okay? But the difference in this story, guys, is that Springtrap's form, unfortunately, does perish in the fire, okay? So Springtrap's suit does perish in the fire in the book universe, okay? And Springtrap's remains get sent to hospital. The man in room 1280 is Springtrap, okay? It's Afton. We know that. We know that. Think of all of the events that happened after the man in room 1280. The body of Afton is sent to hospital, okay? And then he gets sent to the Fazbear distribution center. And then Afton, leaves, goes to the distribution center because of the vicar man. The priest takes him to the location. The angry spirit gets set free. Blah, 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 blah. You know the drill, right? If you've read all the books, you know what I'm talking about. You should have. You should have read or watched all the video summaries so far, right? That's what happens. So Afton does survive the fire. Springtrap survives, but he's lost all of his suit. He's just a decrepit, bony person now, and he tries to get back to life. And he's at the hospital. So the fire does happen. Springtrap gets burned, but he doesn't escape in the book universe. His body gets found. He gets taken to hospital because he's still alive, miraculously. How is he still alive? And the man in room 1280 smells of fire and burnt plastic and metal. So it does happen, okay, guys? The fire at Fazbear Frights does happen. So the epilogue, guys. Sorry for rambling on a little bit. I needed to talk about that because it's big and it gets your brains thinking. We start off with Larson in the hospital, okay? If you remember, Larson gets stabbed by the big Afton and he gets infected, and Wraith saves him by burning his stomach, and now he's in hospital, okay, guys? Larson has a big surgery because he's so injured, and the doctor says he had a bad infection, but they don't know what the infection is. It was a bizarre infection. They couldn't understand it. And they said that burn on your stomach saves your life. If you didn't get burned, that burn on your stomach saved you. It got rid of the infection. So Wraith saves Detective Larson. And then Larson starts to think, when he's on leave, he's not working anymore because he's so injured. He spends time with his family and stuff. He starts to suspect that, hold on a sec, the doctors have just told me that burn saved my life. Wait, hold on, Wraith can't be evil then. Wraith saved my life. I watched him heal me. So Wraith isn't bad. I need to find him. I need to investigate this further. What's going on? Because originally, guys, Larson thinks that Wraith was William Afton, but that's not the case. Now, this is where things get crazy. Okay, guys? I know I say that every episode, but the infection is gone, apparently. Right? It's gone. But when Larson's starting to feel physically better, mentally, he's not, okay? Over time, he starts getting visions of past memories that don't belong to him. When he's in bed, guys, he gets a vision of being at Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria back in the 80s. And it feels so real that the music feels like it's vibrating his bed. It feels so real. And then he gets past, they feel so real. He gets memories of being at the cinema with friends or going to the ice cream parlor. He's getting memories of different people, okay? Memories of different events from different people, not himself. Now, I thought straight away, are these memories of victims of William Afton, okay? So when William Afton infected Detective Larson, although his infection has gone, he's now got the power of having visions of past victims that William has killed. And one of the biggest visions he has, this is crazy, he has a vision of an old ball pit. Okay? Into the pit! And it is, guys. It's the same ball pit as the Into the Pit one, the one that Oswald goes into. He even smells it, guys. He gets visions of the smell of it being dusty and mouldy. And it smells like it's decaying, this ball pit. And he needs to find the ball pit. Detective Larson's like, yeah, this ball pit's important. I'm going to go and investigate. I need to find this ball pit. We get the stars, guys, which means a time skip or a different view. We're back with Jake, okay? We're back with Stitch Wraith. And we are back with Stitch Wraith 9 days after the factory incident, okay? 9 days after what happened with Afton. And if you remember, the creature, the female endoskeleton escaping from Afton and running into a vent in the factory. Okay, remember that. Something feels off, okay? He misses Andrew. Remember, guys, the angry spirit is now gone from Stitch Wraith. There's no more angry spirit. So Stitch Wraith is completely good now. You know, he's not going to kill people or anything like that. He's not going to shock people because of the anger. But he remembers about the female endoskeleton. Something bad is out there. Something bad is still roaming around. I can feel it. So, Stitch Wraith is just roaming around in this storm. And it's raining. And he's just roaming around because he's a bit lost. He doesn't really know what he's doing. He finds a homeless man in an alleyway sleeping in the rain. Okay, guys? It's never said who this is. But I'm pretty sure it's Grim. Okay, you remember Grim, the homeless man? Weirdly coming back again. I really do think Grim's more important to the story than meets the eye, in my opinion. I feel like he's going to do something later on. Grim, the homeless man, is here. And he has to hide in the alleyway because there's some police roaming around, not looking for Stitch Wraith, just going on their duty, looking for other people with the sirens on. Stitch Wraith decides to hide, and he falls on top of... he accidentally puts his hand onto Grim. Jake's really surprised that when he touched Grim, he doesn't die. And Jake's like, hold on. Oh. I didn't kill him. I didn't shock him. That's because Andrew was the one doing the power and killing people, okay, with his anger. And weirdly, guys, this is another weird thing. When Jake touches Grim, Jake gets a memory of Grim's past. Okay, he gets a happy memory. He gets a happy memory of Grim being at an old restaurant with his family. Really happy memory of Grim's past life. Okay, so Jake has the power to think about memories. He touches people and he gets the memories, which is really, really interesting. So suddenly, Grim's memory starts to turn sad. It's really weird because, again, Jake, with all this memory stuff and feeling so real, Jake feels... The memory feels so real to Jake when he's thinking about it. And then there's like a time skip. Like time skip going forward and forward and forward. And Jake feels it. And then it turns sad. Where, unfortunately, Grim has a car crash with his family all inside the car. And unfortunately, Grim loses all of his family and his kids in this car accident. And then suddenly... Grim starts to literally look really distraught and sad while he's sleeping in his dream. So yeah, Grim's got some really bad past as well. Whether that comes together later on, if Grim's somebody important. But Jake wants to help Grim and says, really focuses on that happy memory that he remembers Grim being in, and it works. Okay. So Jake has shifted Grim's memory to think about the happy memory. So Jake has got the power to do that, which is pretty cool. So now Jake feels like a superhero. He's like, oh my god, I just helped Grim. That was cool. Jake leaves Grim and goes into a storage area to hide, okay? To hide away from the police. And apparently he hears scuffling from the alleyway. So he hides, okay? And he finds a teenage girl sleeping. This is where it gets a bit like, what's going on here? And she's not really sleeping. She's passed out, okay? Because this girl is a drug addict, okay? She's been taking drugs and she's passed out in this storage room, like completely just dead from these drugs that she's been taking. Thinks that he can help her, okay? And Jake is going to help her because Jake is the nice spirit and he's like, yeah, I can fix this. I can save this girl. So Jake goes to get her some rainwater because her lips are all dry and she looks like clearly needs water. She gives the girl some water. However, The door swings open of the storage facility and 2 men walk in. And the girl is still phased out, but clearly afraid of these 2 men. And the 2 men are coming in and saying, "Where's our money? We need our money right now. You owe us money. Give us the money. You owe us money." And the girl is clearly now afraid. She knows these men and she's afraid. And Jake's like, "I ain't having this. I'm a real superhero now." He stands up from the darkness. And the 2 men are like, "Who are you supposed to be? It's not a Halloween party. What are you doing here?" And start laughing. And Jake, with his strength, grabs the man and picks him up and starts shaking him around. And the man's like, "No, please, I'm sorry, leave me alone." Jake doesn't listen. And he gets angry. And you know what anger does in this endoskeleton, guys? The endoskeleton's hands start to turn red while he's getting angry. So although Jake is a good guy, and he can be friendly with Grim and he can be friendly with a girl, when he gets angry, the powers come to show. Jake's hands are so molten red that he gets the tip of his finger and presses it onto one of the men's foreheads. Again, I thought this was a bit weird. You'll see why later on. I thought this was a bit weird for Jake to do. But that's it. The men are defeated. They don't die. But then Jake steps out, Stitch Wraith steps out, holding the girl, carrying the girl, and they leave the alleyway and go and find somewhere else to go. So Jake has saved the girl. We're back with Detective Larson now, guys, and he's been investigating. 2 days later, he's been trying to find this ball pit. Where is this ball pit? Going around the town trying to look for it. And then a tired man finds a tired man's location, and the tired man gives him the keys. He doesn't really care. He's like, "Yeah, whatever, do what you want," and leaves, okay? This tired man, guys, is the same man from Into the Pit, okay? You remember the tired man who's fed up and looks tired all the time? He doesn't care. Well, whatever, have the keys, do what you want. I have a ball pit. Go and look if you want to. And it's the same location and ball pit where Oswald went, okay? This is the old Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria where the murders happened, just like it says in Into the Pit. And Larson goes into the room, and the ball pit is there. Larson's a bit shocked now. He's like, "Oh my god, my visions were real. This ball pit is the exact same one I visioned. I'm getting a bit creeped out by this. What's going on? What is this trying to tell me to do?" And the ball pit's there with the sign saying "Do not use." And Larson says, "Who would try to get in here?" I thought that was a nice little reference to Oswald going into the ball pit before. How ironic, right? And he goes into the ball pit, guys, and the balls are all musty, rotten, and horrible. And he scrapes on one of the balls, guys, and it's old blood. There's old blood on all of these balls in the ball pit. Okay, so something has happened in this ball pit, guys. Something has happened in this ball pit. A murder, a death, something has happened. And my guess is, guys, is that this is where one of the murders happened. My first suggestion is that this was where William Afton killed one of the kids. Okay, and that's old blood from the murder. Number 2, this is Oswald's blood from when Oswald got bit and he was bleeding. But I don't think that would be true. I feel like it's the murder. Because when Oswald goes into the pit the first time, he says that the balls are sticky. And just like Larson said, but he doesn't know because Oswald's an idiot. The balls were already sticky when Oswald went in. So yeah, it's definitely old blood from something, okay? The third one, which is a little bit straw graspy, is that this could be where William Afton got spring locked in a ball pit. And that's why the spring bonnie's there and stuff like that. That's another suggestion. But I do think this was where an original murder happened at the location. Okay, guys? And it could be where a body was hidden, or it's where a murder happened. So what Larson decides to do, guys, is that he takes samples of the blood. Yes! Really, really interesting. He gets the old blood and he decides to do some samples, okay? It's not said, it ends there. So I think the next book is going to tell us who these samples are from. Is it William Afton? Is it who's this blood? What's this blood from? So really, really interesting. We're going to time skip, guys. Then it just says about the 2 men. The 2 drug men are in hospital now. and they're alive. And I think this was pretty funny. One of the men's heads, where Stitch Wraith pressed his finger against the head, it says the words, "Just say no," imprinted onto the man's head. Just say no, the slogan, like, don't do drugs, which I thought was pretty weird, honestly. But there you go. And then, time skip again, we're back with Stitch Wraith, okay? So Stitch Wraith has found a shed, okay? I think a shed has been mentioned before, and I think that's Grimm's little hut. It's not said if it's Grimm's or not, but they find a shed, and they both take shelter in the shed, okay? And Stitch Wraith goes and gets some blankets, found in a dumpster to, you know, keep the girl warm, and everything seems fine, okay? He even locks the door with some rope. He finds some rope and locks the door with the rope. The first couple of hours were quiet, guys. And then he hears something outside. Outside the shed, something scraped across the wood siding. After the scrape, a metallic rattle cascaded down the door, then seemed to scrabble up the wall next to it. Then something thumped on the roof and clicked down the other side of the shed. Jake traced the movement carefully. Something was out there. Something was crawling out there. He was sure of it. Jake pulled his metal legs close to his body and edged nearer to the girl. He knew he was currently occupying a big endoskeleton, but right this second, he didn't feel like that. He felt like the kid he really was. Something was outside the shed, scrabbling around it as if it was trying to find a way to get in. Jake cocked his head, listening. He put an arm protectively over the girl, just in case whatever was out there broke through the roof. But he was so trembled, he wished someone was there to put an arm over him too. End. So it's pretty clear, guys, that this is the female endoskeleton that escaped Afton, okay? And she's trying to find a way inside, okay? For shelter or to kill and find Stitch Wraith, we don't know. Okay, it ends there. So really cool, interesting epilogue, guys. Larson finds the ball pit from Into the Pit, making it go all the way back to the first story, and getting DNA samples from the ball pits with old blood, okay? What's that going to tell us? Is it going to show us the DNA of William Afton? Is it going to show us the victim's DNA? We'll have to wait and see. Let me know your thoughts, guys, of both of these stories. It's getting really exciting, especially when there's only 2 more books to go, or 2 or 3 more books to go. So, no, I think it's 3. I think we've got the Puppet Carver next. I can't remember the other one. Yeah, it's 11. So there's 3 more to go. 3 more epilogue stories. So what's going to happen? Do you think Grimm's going to come and save the day? I really do think Grimm's going to do something. Who's the endoskeleton outside? Is it Elizabeth? Is it something else? We'll have to wait and see. And the DNA sample too. So yeah, let me know all your thoughts. I've been recording for 2 hours. My voice is dead. I'm really tired, but you know, I love doing these for you guys, and you deserve it. You really do. Thank you so much for watching. I love you all to pieces. Have a great weekend. Also, remember, guys, that this video was sponsored by Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade. The link will be in the description. And thank you very much for sponsoring the video today. I really do appreciate it. And all the support from you guys means so much to me. And I'll see you all next time.